Hi everyone, Magnus here again, and today I'm going to be doing a bit of a different video than normal. I'm going to be looking a bit at my history in terms of where I started in chess, some of my development over time, some milestones, best wins, first GM victory, and really I'm just showing that you can get there implementing some of the strategies that I'll be showing in videos that I've already uploaded and later videos that are going to come. So I started playing chess in late 2019. It's about 700. It's provisional ELO, but I started at around 700 strength. I was familiar with the game. I'd learnt it when I was much younger, but I only really picked it up back in pandemic 2020 when I really started getting interested in it. As I'm sure many of you have. But I would say that this 900 to 1000 was actually a lot longer of a struggle than this chart might look. It was quite aimless with my planning. I didn't really have any idea of what to do. I was just kind of moving out pieces. I believe I'd probably seen some Scholars Mate videos. I was just trying to pull that off every game. If that didn't work, it would all just go to chaos, and I'd normally lose. So I actually have the first game that I've ever played on chess.com. It was not a good one. I don't even know what happened. I think I resigned after losing my queen. So e4, e5 is admittedly what I'm going to be recommending. However, queen f6 is absolutely not. As you can see, I loved a bit of Scholar's Mate. They clearly stopped my idea of going queen h4 to do it and get bishop c5. So as soon as that didn't work, I was like, oh well, I guess I'll have to go to f6 and I don't know, take through the knight. I don't know what I was thinking. They played d3, which, you know, it's not a great move, blocks out their bishop. But I go g5 because all I'm thinking is I got to get rid of this knight, I got to get my bishop out, and I want to checkmate them. So you know. But I wasn't even thinking about my opponent has moves as well. Of course, they just captured a free bishop, no free pawn. I moved my queen to a random square. Don't know what I was thinking. No, I didn't know. They just developed their knight, probably going in for some forks or something, or maybe they're just moving their knight out. I played d6. They want to fork me. I did see it, so you know. 798. These are some tactics you got to spot. If I didn't move my knight here, if I just played like a6, say, they would fork me and they would take my rook, and that would be no good. So you know, I did see knight a6. They for some reason got scared of my knight jumping in, even though it's already covered. So they covered. I developed the bishop. Probably forgot about the knight and just should have kicked it away, but you know. I like a pin. I see a pin. Bishop goes to e3. Okay, I do kick the knight away. And this is way too early to be breaking open the center. My pieces are completely scattered. I need to just develop and castle. But I was not obeying the principles. They won a full pawn. I castled just into the complete air. They played c4, which is actually interesting as a top move. Normally you just want to be developing and castle. But I guess they want to bring the rook and try and checkmate me. They take because beginners love to take. And admittedly, there are some tactics here, maybe like e4. I don't know. I just retreat the knight. Fair enough. I go for the bishop, and I, for some reason, spend 1 second taking the knight. And then I resign because I probably see they can take my queen. And I was just sad that they could do that. But never do this. If I take here, there's a very good chance that my opponent actually would have just been tunneled in on this area of the board and just taken back. In which case, I'm actually doing quite okay. You know, I have some play, the knight's coming out, I got some pressure on a pawn. Doesn't even look too bad. But I didn't, I just resigned. So that was my first ever game on chess.com. Not the finest, but it is what it is. And it took me, what's this? 1, 2. It took me about 3 months to break 1,000, which I think is quite reasonable. That's not a bad goal for most people. Admittedly, I think you can probably do it in less than a month if you follow what I'm going to tell you. But it's not bad at all. In fact, this was the game where I did break 1,000. As you can see, a bit chaotic. Ideally, you'd rather be keeping control, but at least it didn't get too out of hand by the looks of it. I accept the Queen's Gambit because probably thought it was a free pawn. They develop. You know, this is not terrible. We're moving out the pieces. I'm getting out my bishop. Castling, that's good. And e5. e5 is interesting, actually. I love it. Getting out the bishop. We're breaking open the position. I think e5 is very decent. Potentially c5 as well could have been good, but not a big deal. I play e5, okay. Yes, and b5 just doesn't make sense. Like, I'm just giving them a pawn. I don't know. I mean, e5, the point should be to take and then develop the knight, probably, with the tempo on the queen. Queen moves back. I can get more development on the queen. Say the knight moves up. All of a sudden, there's bad things happening. I'm exploiting a pin. You can't break the pin. And black's just doing much, much better. Instead, I play b5. The bishop comes out. Actually, the bishop coming out to b2 is very sneaky. I guess I'm going for this pawn. I'm assuming I saw that. Oh, and then they hung a knight. Yeah, that'll happen sometimes. That's a decent move, yeah. Attacking the queen. Okay, I'm a bit tunneled on the queen. And, okay, that does hang a bishop, which is not ideal. Okay, I did hang a bishop. And they saw it. Wow. Check. My knight's hanging, but they're not taking it. Took a pawn. They took my knight. Apparently I won this. Oh, I guess the passed pawn's pretty good. Oh, wow, yeah. That must have been a mouse slip. Oh, I kind of feel bad. They must have done this by accident. Although this wouldn't have been that good either, because I would have promoted. But, you know. Yeah, that... Okay. Beating an 800 by a mouse slip was how I got there. And then I played this move because I thought I was being fancy when I could have just traded and promoted. But, you know. But, in the end, it got the job done. You got enough pieces. Okay, my king's just going for a run. Just there into the middle of the board, 2 kings. Wow. Okay, trading the queens is nice. At least I can't lose anymore. Gave some checks. Wow. And actually a nice checkmate. But it's very clear to me that there was not much technique here. A lot of tunnel vision. Those are the big takeaways. I was just focusing so much on my own plans. Like, all the way back here. I doubt I even realized that they were trying to checkmate me and deflect my knight away. All I was looking at was I want to take that pawn. I reckon I just as close easily would have taken with the knight. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if it was a coin toss. But then I was just going for the queen. I wasn't looking at the diagonals. But, you know, that's how these games are. They're back and forth. You've got to build this pattern recognition over time. It doesn't come instantly. But by the point when I'm 1500, I believe that is almost a bit over a year into playing. I first got 1500. I think a year is quite slow for 1500. But then again, I wasn't taking it super seriously back then. You can clearly see that I've got some Eric Rosen inspiration here, going for the Stafford Gambit. I was just always going for these tricks, always a fried liver of a Stafford Gambit, e4, e5, every time. I mean, at least I was learning some kind of openings. This is actually a nice tactic. I'm quite shocked I played that. Knight takes h2. Idea is that the queen is under threat, and if the rook takes, then I have bishop g4. And I went for that, won the game, and there goes, that's 1500. So, you know, short and sweet. That's how a lot of these games are. You can catch people out with these tactics. It's very tricky. This, whoops, bit of a spoiler there, was the game 2000. As you can see by the graph, much more consistent, although there were 1 or 2 mistakes at the end. Eventually I did end up blundering a draw. So you can see I'd actually learned some proper openings here. I was going for the Benko Gambit. I think this is a great opening for pretty much all levels under 2100. Issue is it sort of gets neutralized. After that point, people learn a lot of long lines. But I was just getting decent position. White doesn't play very confrontational. They don't accept the Gambit. Just kind of leave the pawn there. I decide to lock it down. Guess I'm restricting the knight a little bit. I probably would have... Nowadays, I just leave the pawn there, probably castle. But that's not a bad move at all. D6. And now I've got connect 4, so I've already won. Castles, 92, 97. And here I would really... There's A4 doesn't do anything. There's no point. I would want to be playing E6, take the pawn, try and win the pawn. So I'd be looking at something like E6, E4, take, and rook E8. And this would be good. I should go for this central square, try and develop my pieces towards it, get the bishop out, and then I can go for this A5, A4 plan. But A5, A4 is just a bit slow. It's not bad, but it is what it is. At least I did kick the bishop off the diagonal, forced an exchange. Now with the dark squared bishop, black should be much better. H5 doesn't really make sense. I don't know what it does. I guess I just want to kick the knight. That's a bit of tunnel vision again there. Still there about 2000. E6. Once again, it's critical pawn break. If I'm playing the Benko Benoni structures, I got to know this. I don't really think I was that familiar. I was just kind of playing the Benko for the gambit. And if someone didn't accept it, I didn't really know what to do. But, you know, H5, H4, I get my plan. And I do finally go for E6, mostly because there's nothing else to do. A bit trade happy as well, maybe. F5. F5 is a tough move to play. I don't know that I would have played that. Maybe I'd play bishop D7 nowadays. The point is that we're just getting a little bit of improvement. Rooks now can see each other. I'll go like Queen E7, bring the rook. Maybe then I'll play F5, but you know. But bishop A6 trades. Rook A7. They decide to go for an aggressive pawn break. I think this is high risk, but they didn't have much to do. The pawn was under fire, and there's no way to defend it. Actually, this knight is completely dominated by these pawns. It's nasty. All the pawns controlling the knight. I don't see... They could have gone for this. But then there might be like bishop d4, bishop c3, apparently f5 again. But they definitely should have gone for knight c1 just to try and defend it. e4 is actually a really nice move. Deflecting the queen away from this d5 pawn. Potentially looking to take and then go rook e5, queen takes. Okay, that's what happens. And rook e5 is a nice move. Looking to get some exchanges. I'm up material, but the king is weak. And I don't hate the queen trade. I think it's quite nice. Setting up some discovered check. Once the queens come off, this should be an easy win for black. All I had to do here, probably bishop e5 looks quite strong because I don't know. Okay, yeah, I'm thinking like restrict the knight and the rook can't take because then you go back. But at the same time, just something like king h7 might be good just to try and bring the king to the center. Maybe king h7, king f1, king g6, knight checks, and knight d3. If I can get my king all the way up here, and then you can start pushing this pawn, then my king runs in. It's good in the endgame to get some king activity, because my king's not really in any danger of getting checkmated. I've got this really nice blockade set up in the middle. And in this game, I'm just kind of flailing with the rook. Okay, I finally bring the king. That's the last piece. Defending the pawn, fair enough. And this was a very weird transition. I don't know why I wouldn't have played this move, because there's a tactic just to win the rook. I should win the game. But I forced the king and pawn endgame when I definitely did not know how to win this. Probably some... Wait, oh no, I've got to use my pawn to stall. I mean, there was... yeah. And then I have another pawn stall, and then another... And then finally, it would be something like this. I'd have to go back, here, 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 here. And then eventually I'd just run away, give up the pawn, take these, and then promote. But that's just kind of ridiculous. I mean, if I didn't have these two flank pawns, this one would actually be a draw, because the king just hides in the corner. I can't kick it out. But going for this whole endgame was just not good. I should have definitely been a little bit more sharp with my tactics, played this move, covered here, give a check, easy win. But it is what it is. I was getting a little bit low on time, 26 seconds, it's not so easy. I end up tricking them, I sneak in. I don't know why I didn't just take the 2 pawns, that was weird. I take 1. And then, for some reason, I just malfunction here. I play this move in like 0.6 seconds. I just give a check. Doesn't make any sense. And this is actually a classic stalemate trick. If I didn't have these pawns here, white just follows the king. I can't do anything. And that's a problem there. So, if I move up my pawn too far, you can see here that that would be a big problem. So if I didn't have these pawns here, I wouldn't ever be able to escape and just run around and take them. And then white would have to go and take that, and in the time that white takes it, I would take their pawns. But for some reason, I wasn't committing to king g3. I can't tell you why. I really wanted to promote this h-pawn, and I decided the best way to do that was to trap my own king. And I stalemated myself. So, you know, by and large, a good game. Got a bit low on time. Started to panic in the endgame. Not the best technique. But to finish up, I just thought I'd show a game where I played against a GM fairly recently. This was just, I was 2350 at this time. I've been over 2400, fell back down a little bit. Hanging around 2300 at the moment. But the game, I switched up the repertoire. Started learning the Alapin. I'm not quite the best at the Alapin yet, but this b6 was very weird. I wasn't familiar with it, but I decided I'd follow some principles, try and break up the chain, and then castle. I wasn't afraid of d4. I thought I could save this move. And I also, it's at this point where you can learn that it's okay to break some of the chess principles. I wouldn't recommend doing this early on, but as you get better, you've got to learn that sometimes there's weird things happening in the game. Like for example, I'm chasing the bishop and I'm inviting them to solidify the bishop in here. But the only reason I'm letting them do that is because I can immediately play this weird backwards knight move, which I haven't developed anything, but neither have they. So that means that I can then take the bishop and I would win a pawn. So they play c4, which is actually a mistake. It looks really nice because you think, like, I'm going to move my bishop here, but then they'll just play d4, which was my plan. And obviously they didn't like that. So they played this, and they must have just missed knight e1 probably, because knight e1 is a weird move. And after bishop d3, bishop e4, I'm just playing d3. And then the position is breaking open, and black's just left with these doubled center pawns. I end up chasing the bishop away because I want to capture it. And if they take me, then I get my rook to the nice central file. So they take me, I get my rook to the center. I go back, I pin the knight. This is nice. The only way to break that pin is with the queen or defend with the queen. They decide to defend with queen f6. But now knight f3 comes and there's more pressure on the knight. They go d6 to defend, but now the queen comes flying in, attack on the rook. Rook has to move. I give this check. And the point of this check is that I want them to block with the rook. And after they do that, I'm possibly going to take the knight here. And then I can put another pin on the rook. So that's what I go for. Put a pin there. They can only really develop the bishop or block. They decide to defend. The bishop develops quickly, covering up some nice squares there. The rook's coming to the center. If f6, then I would just bring the rook. As you can see, if f6, the rook just comes here. If you take, it's game over. They decide to play bishop d6, trying to cover up. Bring in the rook. And here this nice move, queen c6, just putting more pressure on the bishop. There's a pin, so if you move the bishop, away, I'll take your queen, then I'll take your other piece. Admittedly, you can then take on f2, but I've already won a piece, and it's no good. Bishop c1 was actually a nice find as well. The point of bishop c1 is that if I put my bishop just on e3, say, they can actually bring the rook to defend, and I can't just take, because after all of these trades, you actually just go queen to b1, and then my bishop has to block, my rook has to block, and I just lose. So the point of bishop to c1 is that if they go for this idea, I will simply take in the center, take, and there's no queen b1, check, and if you do play queen b1, I'll just checkmate you. And so they end up trying to play for some tricks on the f2 pawn. I just take the free rook, because there is no checkmate here, there's nothing to be worried about. My king's guarded by the rook. I move over, they make some room for the king. Now comes the queen trade, and all of a sudden I launch an attack against the f7 pawn, centralizing the queen, putting some pressure nicely. They move up their queen to defend it, but now their bishop is trapped with the move pawn b4. The bishop cannot go back here or here, because the rook and queen guard it. The bishop cannot go there, there, or there. So they just resigned because they're losing the bishop as well. So I hope some of these games were a nice taster into how you can develop over time. I would say my first game, I really just didn't know what was going on. I didn't even know the basic principles. I was just kind of moving the pieces out, trying to scholars mate. Every game scholars mate, and it doesn't work out. It's not a good idea. I've got some good beginner openings. If you want to learn them, they'll be coming out in later videos. So that should help deal with that problem. Next game's around 1,000. You'll notice that I was playing reasonable moves. I doubt I had any actual opening, but it's logical. I've castled first. I'm now going to break in the center. I had learnt the principles. So that's what's key to crossing 1,000. You don't need to know in-depth opening theory. You just need to be able to develop your knights, develop your bishops, castle the king. That's what I learnt at this point. And you get a nice game. At 1,500, I dipped my toes back into the tricks and the traps. I was getting some nice tactical wins. While I wouldn't recommend trying to play these tactics forever, I think it's really useful to know about them, know about these opening tricks, and do lots of puzzles. That way, when you get opportunities, you won't miss them. Because if I had missed that free queen, I'm just down a piece. Finally, 2,000. At this point, you might need to develop some fairly serious opening repertoire. Still, the theory is not... There's not like there's that much theory. I mean, it's more about knowing basic themes and ideas. You got to know what you're doing. You know, I had some reasonable ideas. The play does all lead on to one another. It makes sense. Each move is logical, moving towards the center, taking space in some way. And finally, where I am now, learning a good bit of opening theory. But as you can see, a lot of top players, good players, GMs and such, they like to get you out of book. They want to get me confused, so he plays b6, a weird move, and you just gotta improvise. Still, it's same as always. I'm developing the knight, taking center space with my pawns, developing the bishop and castling. That's why I really like the Alapin at the moment. It's following a lot of the basic themes. I think it's a good weapon for beginners against the Sicilian. And yeah, I think that'll probably do it. I hope you all learned something, enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.